On 110b is going to be a liver day. Amrli Abayder of Safra, Abai told her of Safra, Kisalakta lahasam. I went up to Eretz Yisrael. Vayiminayihu, I asked them, whoever his hosts were, that Kavda ma'asunbe. So liver. So we discussed yesterday, liver, right, is primarily made of blood. This blood is not biblically prohibited because the Gemara says that only the blood that spills like water on the floor is the kind of blood that's biblically prohibited. This whole thing is really is one big blood. So the question is, kavda mai asunbe. Exactly, how do you cook the kaved? How do you cook the liver? So, do you cook it? Does the blood that comes out of the liver, does it go back in and then prohibit the liver? And we're going to see a little bit of cooking the liver with something else. Does the blood that comes out of the liver that's going to go into something else prohibit something else? How exactly do you figure this all out? So, there is a question. Usually we salt things to get the blood out. So the question is, does that work by a liver? There's just so much blood there. So one opinion says yes, but I think many others say no. So, okay. So Eshke Rabbi Zrika, he saw Rabbi Zrika, and Amrle, so he asked him this question, how do you cook your liver? He says, Ana Shakla, I cooked the liver, Rabbi Ami for Rabbi Ami, and he ate it. I prepared a nice liver for Rabbi Ami, I cooked it, and clearly he wasn't worried about blood getting extracted and then absorbed again, just like we had by the udder. The milk goes out and then does it go back in, yes or no? So to this blood of the liver, does it leave the liver and does it come back in? Things cook, they get extracted. The question is, what about being absorbed? Well, Rabbi Ami ate it. So Kiyas Lagabi Amrle. So he came back and he told him. So he said, no. That wasn't my question, a liver itself. I had a different question. My question was, if you cook the liver with something else, is it going to prohibit the something else? Now, now that we ask on that, 1 second. What's the difference between a liver on its own or a liver with something else? What are you worried about? Blood's going to come out of the liver and maybe re-enter? Well, if you're not worried about the blood re-entering the liver, why are you worried about the blood re-entering something else? Make up your mind. Is it going to absorb or not going to absorb? So that's his question. Prohibiting itself, the liver, with the blood going out and coming back in, that doesn't bother you. Why doesn't that bother you? Because the Mishnah in Truma says, it's not prohibited. The Mishnah there says that if you cook the liver, it's not going to be prohibited. Okay. So, then you should have no question about it prohibiting something else, as it says in the Mishnah, in that same Mishnah, in Trumos. Ditnan, as the Mishnah states, hakaved, a liver, oseres, ve'inene seres. Hakaved, so it could prohibit, but it's not going to become prohibited. Why? Mipnei shehi poletes ve'eno bolas, because it can extract, but it cannot absorb. So, I don't understand. He's saying, you had a question originally about the liver. Then you said, no, that wasn't my question. My question was about something else. So the question is, why did you assume that a liver is permitted? Because the Mishnah in Truma says it's permitted. What's your question now? Why, if it's cooked with something else, can it prohibit something else? So that the Gemara says that's the same Mishnah. The same Mishnah says that hakaved oseres ve'inene seres. It prohibits others. It doesn't become prohibited yourself. So what are you asking? You made an assumption that the liver itself, if it's cooked, is going to be permitted. How did you know that? A Mishnah in Trumas. Now you're asking about, can it prohibit something else? Well, look at that same Mishnah and figure it out. The Mishnah says that it can prohibit, but it will not become prohibited. So the liver itself won't absorb things that are extracted. but it could prohibit others, meaning if other things are soft skin, soft meat, the blood from the liver can go into it and prohibit it. Why not? So, especially the udder, right? Right. We said the udders too, right? So he said. So the reason why he had a question, even though he knew the Mishnah and Trumas, because once again the Mishnah is a little bit ambiguous. It could be talking about a case where there is the liver of a treifa. It's prohibited. Amar le dilma hasan bekavdi surah. The liver is prohibited. The liver is prohibited, and therefore umishum shamnu nisa. And because of the forbidden fat, so let's say you have a treifa, an animal that had a fatal wound and died. So that liver of that animal has this fat that's going and prohibiting other things. So that, once again, so that Mishnah which says that a liver could prohibit but won't become prohibited. So if the liver itself is permitted, but it's cooked with something prohibited, the liver itself doesn't absorb, so it's not going to become prohibited. But if the liver itself, one second. Right. The liver itself, if it comes from a treifa and has fats on it, those fats, prohibited fats, can go into other things that it's being cooked with and prohibit them. The liver itself, if it's cooked with a treifa, it's not going to absorb. It's not going to absorb the forbidden fats. So that's why I didn't bring that as a question. Because if it was a treifa and it had fats on it, so then that's why it's going to prohibit other things. That's why it's, yeah. However, mishum dama mai. What about its blood? That's what I'm asking about. I want to know about the blood of, not the fat of the liver. I want to know about the blood of the liver. The blood of the liver, can that blood prohibit something else that it's being cooked with? Yes or no? Now, the question Rashi explains is, the blood liver is really biblically permitted. It's not blood that falls on the ground, that spills on the ground. The whole thing is one big piece of blood. So that blood is really permitted. The question is, like similar to the udder, do we say that once it leaves the liver, it's rabbinically prohibited or not? Just like the udder, the milk that came out is only rabbinically prohibited. So the question is, what about the blood over here? On the one hand, it starts off as permitted blood when it's in the liver, but now that it left the liver, so do we prohibit that blood? Yes or no? If it's prohibited, and then it goes into something else that is being cooked with, so then it's going to prohibit it. So that's the question of the Gemara. Does the blood that leaves the liver, is that prohibited blood that therefore will prohibit other things that it is cooked with? Okay. Now, when he went back again up to Eretz Yisrael, Eshkechei l'Rab Zrika. He found Rab Zrika. Amrlei. So he asked him this question. Amrlei hayinami lo tibayilach. That shouldn't be a question for you either. Why? The Ana, me, Reb Zrika, the Yanai, Bre, Rabbi Ami, and Yanai, the son of Rabbi Ami, we went Iklan Lebe Rabbi Yehuda, to the house of Rabbi Yehuda, who was the Bre, the Reb Shimon ben Pazi, who was the son of Reb Shimon ben Pazi. And what happened? The Krivulan Kanya Bekupa the Achle. So what happened at that house? They brought us a kanya, our favorite word, a trachea, right? The windpipe, right? They brought us a windpipe, and it came, the kufia, with everything attached to it. It had the heart and the liver. It was all together, all cooked together. And what happened? We ate it. So what happened? The liver was cooked, and we ate the heart, and even the liver was cooked. It did not prohibit other things. So you don't have to ask that question, because me and Yanai went to the house of Yehuda, who's the son of Reb Shimon ben Pazi, and we were served liver and heart, all with the windpipe, all cooked together, and we ate it. Delicious, yeah? Yes. So says the Gemara, one second. So they asked Rav Ashi, and some say Rav Shmuel Mizrukinya asked the question. Hold on, who said that's a good proof? What could have happened? You could have used the windpipe as a drain. It was resting outside the pot, and therefore all the blood from the liver was dripping outside the pot. And therefore, when it was cooked, the blood was dripping out and not into the heart and into the other things that it was being cooked with. And therefore, you don't have a proof that blood that leaves the liver and gets cooked with other things that does not prohibit the other things. Maybe it was more of a draining system. I can fully picture it, but the Dilma Pikana Chutz Likadera Have. It was the windpipe was outside the pot, and they positioned the liver somehow it was tilted outwards, and the blood would go outside of the pot. Yeah, they put like a draining system, you put a straw in the liver or whatever, and the blood goes out the straw pot. So they just, instead of straws, they use windpipes. I don't know if they sold windpipes in the stores instead of straws, but that was kids love that, right? Pack of 100 windpipes. That's right. Imagine you give a vegan a windpipe as a straw. Yeah, you go to Starbucks, get a windpipe. So I'll take a cappuccino with a windpipe. So so that's one reason why that's not necessarily a proof, because you don't know. Maybe it was cooked like that, and therefore there's no proof. Inami, interesting. Before they would cook the liver, they would do this chalitin process. They would take it and really boil the liver. They would boil it, and therefore it wouldn't extract any more blood. Seared. That's what I was looking for. Seared. Good word. Yeah. Some say, is it here?
Some say vinegar or boiling water.
Yeah, vinegar or boiling water. But some say, I heard it, I didn't see it, that apparently it's brought down already in the Gaonim's time that we don't know how to do this chalita process, really. How to do this searing process, and therefore we don't rely on it, apparently. But either way, they would do this process, and therefore, once again, you have no proof. Maybe they seared the liver before they cooked it, and therefore you don't have a proof if the blood that came out of the liver will not prohibit other things. Maybe they seared it first. Just like Yihad Rav Huna Chaltile B'chala, Rav Huna would sear it not with bread but with vinegar. Rav Nachman Chaltile B'roskin, and Rav Nachman would sear it with boiling hot water. Okay. V'sav Rav Papa Kamed Rava L'Meimar. Rav Papa, when he was in front of Rava, he would say Chala Asir, that vinegar that you seared the liver in, that vinegar is going to be prohibited, because outside the liver came some blood, and that blood would actually prohibit the vinegar. So here we see the first one to really to tell us that maybe blood that comes out of the liver, right, it goes into the vinegar when you're searing it, is going to prohibit the vinegar, which means that blood extracted from the liver would be prohibited. Because if it would be permitted, and who cares that went into the liver, and who cares that went into the vinegar, it wouldn't prohibit it. So that's what Rav Papa thought to say when he was in front of Rava. Amarle, so he told him, I chala asir, ihu nami asir. If the vinegar is prohibited, so then you should say the liver itself is also prohibited. Ki heichi depalit hadar bala, that just like the blood got extracted, it also gets absorbed. Now, before, when it was cooking, Rashi pointed out that when the liver is being cooked, there it's interesting. The Gemara says at different places that when you are extracting, you cannot absorb. It's busy extracting. It can't simultaneously absorb at the same time. But in this case, when it's searing, when it's being seared in vinegar, there it can be extracted into the vinegar, and then it can be absorbed back into the liver. was thinking when someone's boiling, someone's getting cooked up and extracting. There's no room for absorption. That wait till the guy comes down, right? So, yeah. So yeah, the musser from the liver. So yeah, you write a book. So either way, okay.
It's absorbed at different rates or extract.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah. Rashi says that when it's really being cooked, it's boiling. The language is lefisha truda liflot. It's like tard is like it's busy. It's very occupied with extracting. It doesn't absorb anything. It comes up somewhere else. Also, I don't remember right now. Okay. Rav Bar Shaba. Rav Bar Shaba. This is going to be a funny story. Yeah. So Rav Bar Shaba, Rav the son of Shaba. It's going to be important. Because you have to be called a name. So Ikla Lebei Rav Nachman. He went to Rav Nachman's house. Aisule Kavda. They brought him a liver. Kavda Shlika, sorry. Velo Akal. A cooked liver. Meaning, not that it was seared, that it was cooked. They cooked the liver. Regular case, cooked the liver. And what happened? Just like yesterday, we had the student knows better than the Rebbe, and the student decides, I'm not eating it. I'm very religious. Velo Akal. So they told this Amrulay Bar Beirav. They told Rav Nachman, you're Bar Beirav, you're a young Torah scholar, Dilagav, that's inside your house. Guess what? Lo Achil. He's not eating. He's under the assumption that this liver is prohibited. It was cooked, blood got extracted, then absorbed. So Umanu, and who's this young Torah scholar? Rav Bar Shaba. He is Rav Bar Shaba. So Rav Nachman said, Amar Lahu Rav Nachman. So Ga'amu l'Shaba. They said, go make Shaba swallow. They just called him by his father's name. They didn't call him by his name. Go tell Shaba to swallow. Stuff it down his throat. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like don't be too religious. That's the lesson. So yeah. One of Steve and I's common conversations is that what switched after the Holocaust primarily is that Judaism became of the book and not of what your father did or what your grandfather did. We lost that connection, right? So, but you saw that your Rebbe did it. You also do it. It says not this, that. That's how we did it. So, yeah. So, okay, this is actually, this whole idea of a liver being cooked is kitanoi, is a machlokas in the earlier Tanoim. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, hakaved oseres ve'eino neseres. Like the Mishnah literally states in Truma, the kaved can prohibit, meaning the blood that will come out is prohibited blood and will prohibit other things. The ve'eino neser, but the kaved, the liver, will not become prohibited. It will not absorb. Why? Here's the line. Because it's extracting and not absorbing. Rabbi Shmuel ben Oshel Yochanan ben Broka Omer, he says, mitubeles oseres vine eseres. If it has on the liver, it has spices. The spices soften the liver and then make it more able to absorb. We have a better word for that. Absorbent? Like more spongy, more absorbent. Oseres vine eseres. It'll become ribbon. But if it's shluka, if it's cooked though, oseres vine eseres, but they changed the. There must be a footnote on this. Oseres vine eseres. Maybe not. Maybe take it literally. There's all different versions of this line of the Gemara. Okay, either way. But it says that if it's cooked, so it will prohibit, and it will become prohibited. It will not only extract, but it will also absorb. So that's a machlokas with Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says that a liver is oseres. It prohibits other things, but it won't become prohibited. Rabbi Shmuel says no. It will extract and it will absorb. So two opinions, Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Shimon broke. Okay. So another humorous story. So Rabbi Bar Huna, Ikla Lebei Rabbi Bar of Nachman. He went to the house of Rabbi Bar of Nachman. So Aisu Lekame Plat Save Techai. They brought him the 3 sutton of very fine bread, not coarse bread, very fine bread. It was ground, and they were with honey. Rashi says, and oil. It's a beautiful bread, very fine bread. So he's like wondering, like, how they have this already. Didn't know I was coming. I was a surprise guest. So Amrle, he thought it was for him, right? It happens to me sometimes, yeah. Amrlahu mihavi diaso dasinu. How did you know that I was coming? That you prepared for me such nice bread. So Amrle, 1 second. Are you better than Shabbos? It's not all about you. Relax. Yeah, Amrle mi adivas lan mina. Dichsiv across the Shabbos oneg. Hello, Shabbos. You gotta have delight on the Shabbos, and that's why we have this bread. That's like this trip to Israel. I went to Rabbi Berkowitz's, Rabbi Spivak's Rabbi Vesha Torah, very famous. So I'm there. I was doing a presentation about Portland. I sat in the back, quietly preparing, and he walks in at 4:30. So I see him walking from the front to the back. I assume he's coming to say hi. Why else is he coming? He's just going to the bathroom. So yeah, the world. Yeah. No, I still got him for a few minutes, and my friend took a million pictures. I didn't ask him to. It just funny, but it was like one of those moments of like, what? No, I knew he did. Yeah. So don't worry, I knew he did. But anyways, yeah, it's good. It's good. Thick skin. So the culture I was owning. So that's probably me.
Oh,
it's probably me being excited. Yeah. I'm not planning to stop, but no. Oh, now it's better. Okay. So the Hachi. So as this was happening, where he was informed that the Shabbos is not any less special than you are. The Hachi eshkachahu kavda. They brought him this liver. The have ba sampuna diblia dama. So sampuna, I think, is a vessel. A pot. Well, it's what? A pottery. Artery?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, running through the liver is a big.
Oh, big artery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they had this artery, the sampuna diblia dama, that blood from the liver was absorbed in it. So Amar lahu amai aviditu haki, meaning so it sounds like they were serving it. So he asked, like, why are you doing this? Like, I understand the liver, but this what'd you call it again? This artery is full of blood. And the blood in the artery, that's real blood. That's prohibited blood. So Amruleh, they said to him, Ela heichi navid. So what should we do? Meaning, we want to eat this. So what should we do? So he tells him, Amrulu karu shatsivaret, like we had yesterday. Cut it vertically and horizontally. Ve'chitucha le tachas. Cut it downwards. Sorry, thank you. Position it downwards so that all the blood can just go down and out, and not into anything else, into it or other food. Let the dam just go down. The honey mili kavda, and this that we need to tear it open. That's because of that's the liver that the blood is within. Aval tachla shumna ba'almahu. This is for this liver where the artery is, right? So, but the actual the spleen. So the spleen doesn't have the blood. The spleen is just full of fat, and therefore it's fine. There's no blood there that you should be worried about, and therefore you don't have to do the tearing process. Ki hadish Shmuel of the lay tafshila de tachli biyoma de avid milsa. Like for Shmuel, they made a tafshila de tachli. They made a cooked spleen dish on the day that he was doing bloodletting. I guess bloodletting maybe takes some energy out of you. So they made him a nice dish. I don't know exactly. Is it healing for the bloodletting? I'm not sure exactly. Right. But yeah. Now, okay. So now different positioning is going to matter because depending what's under the liver, the blood that comes out can now be absorbed into something else. So how you position things is going to be important. So itmar kavda iluye bisra shari. If there is liver, I sure describes, and I'm a visual guy, but they took the spit and they put in the oven. They had a spit when they were roasting it, and the sharp part of the spit, Rashi says, was facing downwards, and you first put the liver on, and then afterwards you put the meat. So that means it means that the kavod was on top and the meat's on the bottom. The liver was put on first, and then the meat afterwards. So what are you worried about? That as it's being roasted, the blood might go onto the meat. Just wondering, we had yesterday, the beginning of yesterday, it said that when it's roasted, the blood doesn't come out. Oh, that was by the udder, maybe. By the udder, we said if it's that was Rashi's whole thing, that the Mishnah have to be talking about a roasted udder because it doesn't come out. Maybe that's by the udder. By the udder is different than by the spleen. Maybe by the blood does come out, but the milk doesn't come out. I don't know. Fine. Either way, either way, it's permitted because even the blood that comes out, but it's mutter, it's shari. Why? Because dama mishrak sharik. The blood it slides off the meat. It doesn't get absorbed into the meat. So Rashi says that the blood that comes out due to roasting is not blood that's really so absorbent. It just sort of slides off the meat, and therefore it's fine. Now, kichala iluyi bisra, if you have vinegar, an udder. Oh, sorry, yeah. Kichala, sorry, kichal, an udder. We had the same word earlier that meant vinegar. Challah was vinegar, yeah. So, but a kichala, thank you. Sorry, I was like, how you putting vinegar on top of meat? Yeah, a kichala on the spit you have. Thank you. An udder goes in first, and then you have the meat. So that's usser. That's going to be prohibited. My time. What's the reason? Chalav sruche masrich. That milk gets very attached and absorbed. Yeah, clingy. Here's the question: what happened to if it's roasted? It doesn't. Maybe you're right. Maybe it goes out, but it doesn't come in.
Because you got the milk stripping onto the meat. Because they're talking about not the
I'm wrong.
itself, but the meat underneath.
Maybe I'm wrong. Okay. Even low pH. I don't know. Earlier, the way Rashi said was that an udder that's roasted, it just stays inside, doesn't come out. I don't know. Fine. I have homework to do. Either way, so here it says that it's absorbent, it's attached, it's really mixed together. Fine. Rav Dimi Minaharda Masni Ibcha, he taught the opposite. So Kachle Lui Bisra Shari. Oh, like that's like we said earlier, that the liver on top of the meat is permitted. My time, what's the reason? Because Chalav Shchuda Dirabanan. What did I say? Sorry, thank you. The udder on top of the meat is shari, is permitted. My taima chalav shchuta dirabanan. So we said that we're going to see the source for it soon, but the milk that comes from an animal that's shechted, like the udder, that's only dirabanan. That's only rabbinic. Okay, and therefore what? And therefore, that's usually not a reason why we permit things. But and therefore, I think, and therefore what? It's rabbinic, and therefore.
In this case.
In the case that it was roasted.
So this is kind of the good milk.
Meaning it wasn't a game. Yeah.
You got other that's roasting. Milk is dripping onto meat below.
Oh, I got it. Meaning the milk itself, if you drink that milk, it's rabbinic prohibited. You want to know if through roasting the milk that goes inside the meat that's under it, that they didn't make a rabbinical prohibition on that. It sounded like the taste of the milk versus the milk itself. So, okay. Kavdi ilavi bisra, but the liver on top of the meat, usr. That's prohibited. The liver on top of the meat. Why? Because dam deraisa. So this blood is biblical when it comes out of the liver.
Basically, blood is prohibited.
Not from the liver. The liver blood is not prohibited biblically.
The liver, however, possesses so much blood it's naturally presumed to slide off.
Maybe it means blood in general is biblical. Blood in general is biblical, even though here it's rabbinic. Yeah, there must be fun.
What he's saying here is the liver's got so much blood that it will be absorbed, whereas normal meat doesn't have enough blood. Tosfos.
Okay. Ask my question. Earlier, the way Rashi explained the question earlier in the first line of the Gemara was that when the blood is the blood that leaves the liver, rabbinically prohibited or not. According to this Gemara, that's very difficult. That's what Tosfos said. According to the way Rashi explained the Gemara earlier, this Gemara is a big difficulty. How does Tosfos explain the Gemara? So it says that right away, when the blood gets absorbed before it's fully cooked, so at that point, the blood is biblical. But milk that's coming from a shechted animal, from its onset, is rabbinic. So blood before it's cooked is going to be biblical. According to the way Rashi explained earlier, it's a problem. Okay, I don't know. Figure out what Rashi wants. I don't know. Okay, interesting. Fine. So either way, that's dam deraisa. So now Darish Maremar says, what's the halacha? Hilchasa bein kavda bein kakla tute bisra shari. If the liver or the udder is under the meat, so meaning it was put second, then it's for sure permitted because it's just going to go off. It's not going to go onto the meat. It doesn't go upwards, it goes downwards. So iluya bisra, if it's on top of the meat, meaning it went first on the spit and the meat came second, the avidin the chatchila lo. Ideally, one shouldn't do either of these, but if you did do it, it would be permitted. Now, Rashi says the way our spits are different. Our spits are, meaning according to us, the way we do it nowadays, Rashi says it's going to be prohibited because our spits are they're not hanging, rather they lie down. If they're lying flat, so then they can sometimes go back and absorb into the meat. But if it's hanging, then it depends. If the right. No, but if it's vertical, and then it makes a big difference. If the liver, it depends where if the liver is first, it'll go down, right? If the meat is first, the liver is set. If the liver is on top and the meat's on bottom, then it'll be a problem. Yeah, but if it just lies down horizontally, nothing goes. Yeah, no. So actually, then it could go either way.
Yeah,
if it's horizontal, if it's vertical, then it only goes one way. Right. Okay. Rav Ashi ikla lebei Rami bar Abba. Rav Ashi went to the house of Rami bar Abba, Chamua, his father-in-law. Chazia. So Rav Ashi went to his father-in-law's house, and Chazia librei to Rami bar Abba. So meaning he saw his brother-in-law, right? The son of his father-in-law is his brother-in-law. Chazia librei to Rami bar Abba. And what did he do? Because Shapid Kavda Ilave Bisra. So the brother-in-law is putting on a spit, liver on top of the meat, meaning the liver went first. And therefore now the blood's going to go, right, it's hanging down, the blood's going to go from the liver onto the meat. Amr, Kama, here we go again, yeah? Amr Kama Yair Haimer Abanon. How haughty is this one of the rabbis, right? So Eimar Damar Rabbanan Diavad. They said, yeah, if you happen to do it, it's permitted. But they didn't say you can go and do it. Lechatchila miyamar. Who said you can go do it? So Mr. Hadi over here says you can just do it, even lechatchila. So now, so there's another family reunion, yeah. So causing trouble with the brother-in-law. Ve'ika be dugi bisra ilave kavda nam yaser. And if you had a be dugi bisra, how do you translate it? It's a vessel. If you had a vessel that's collecting the drips of fat, like we do for our geese, Rashi says, okay, yeah. So it's called bedugi because I think dugi is like dag, it's like a fish. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. We do for our geese. Okay, so everyone makes geese at home. So you have ika bedugi, so bisra ilave. So then vika bedugi, so bisra ilave. Kavda nami aser. Then even if the meat's on top and then the liver, it's also going to be prohibited because what? Because it goes into the vessel. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Rashi says that the blood goes and drips into the vessel. Yeah. So and you're going to eat the food that's in the vessel, and therefore it's going to prohibit it. So umayishna midama the bisra. Why is that different? Why is this fat different than the blood of the meat? Umayishna midama the bisra. Dama the bisra shekain dama the kavda kfei. Meaning when blood flows out of the meat, so that we're not worried about. But when the fats flow out of the meat, that we are worried about. So what's the difference? So the blood, when blood and fat go, what happens? So when it goes, so the blood, dama the bisra shokin, meaning shokin, it goes down to the bottom of the vessel, and the fat floats on top. Okay, and therefore
you can skim off the fat.
You can skim off the fat, good. But dama de kavda kafi, meaning the blood of the liver, it floats on top. It floats on top, and therefore, since the blood floats on top, you can't
separate.
Mixes with the fat.
Yeah, you can't separate it. So therefore, when the blood drips down, you can from the fat, you can separate the blood from the fat. When the blood drips down from the liver, there the blood floats to the top, and therefore it's harder to separate. Yeah. Why would blood and liver go to the top?
The other fat.
Different kinds of blood. It doesn't explain the different bloods. I don't know the.
Discuss the use of the even for ordinary meat will be discussed further in the bottom of 112.
Okay. We'll see it again. Yeah. Okay. Amar of Nachman Amar Shmuel Sukin. So now you have a knife sheshachet ba. So a knife that you shecht with. So now the place you shecht is called the base hashrita. That place is very hot. Well, it's a question exactly how hot is it warm, but actually this is the source. Yeah. Sakin sheshachet ba aser lachtoch ba roseach. A knife that you shechted with, it's prohibited to cut something which is hot, which is boiling hot, because we're worried that since the base hashrita, the place where you shechted, is hot, so therefore the knife absorbed some of the blood, and now if you cut something else which is hot, it's going to take the blood that was absorbed by the knife and it's going to absorb it into whatever you're cutting, and that's going to be prohibited. So sakin shakad ba asalaktuk ba roseach sonain amrila by hadacha amrila lo by hadacha. But if you cut something that's cold, so then some say you should wash it off anyways. Just like we have cold meat and cold cheese, we said earlier, if they touch, you should wash it off. And some say it doesn't need washing. It's too far of a concern that the blood in the knife is going to be absorbed on something cold. That's already too far. Obviously, if you see red on it, then wash it off. The question is obviously where you didn't see red, where you didn't see the blood. Yeah. So Amar Rav Amar Shmuel, this is an important line, that a ka'ara shemalach babasar, a plate. Thank you. Where they salted. This is, I think, very relevant. not that I do salting, but ka'ara shemalach babasar. So a plate that you salted meat, asr lechol barosech. You cannot put now your hot meat on that plate and eat the meat. Why? Because the place where you shechted, now there's blood on that plate, it got absorbed. You put something hot on that plate, it's going to go and absorb the blood. And this is Shmuel according to his reasoning. What's Shmuel's reasoning? The Shmuel the Tameh, the Amar Shmuel, Maliach harehu kiroseach, vekavush harehu kimavushal. So when you shechted, you also salted the meat. The salt extracted the meat from the salt extracted the blood from the meat. Thank you, and presumably it went into the bowl. It got absorbed, and now you put something hot on there, so it's going to absorb that blood, and therefore that's going to be prohibited. That's like Shmuel holds that salting is similar to boiling, and pickling, kavush, is similar to cooking. They both are ways to. So these are the cases where usually heat transfers, but Shmuel says kavush, pickling something for 24 hours is also going to have a status like cooking. You put your dairy fork, let it sit there in your chulin pot with all the meat still, all the residue for 24 hours. It could be a problem based off this. That pickling is like cooking. Rabbi Yochanan argues salting is not like boiling and pickling is not like cooking, and we'll have to continue tomorrow. Oh, very good.